Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Is the sound working? It is weird. We'll get the sound working.
I think that's working now.
Okay, is the sound working now? Let me know in the chat if the sound is working now.
Yeah.
Yes? Yay, yay, sound, yay. Well, that's kind of important, isn't it? Okay, whew. So one of the things that we can do to self-regulate, which this class is about, is just to take a sigh like I did. So, oh, look, I can hear myself too on here. That's a good sign. Laughing is also very good to discharge that excess energy. I'm just going to take a moment to reground. There's nothing like going live, and there's always challenges with live, because when you don't go live, you can, if there's a problem, you just pause and make it work, and there's no pressure on it. But when you're live and there's all of you here waiting for everything to work, there's a lot of additional pressure to make it work quickly, obviously. So thank you everybody for joining us. I will say hello to you with my voice now. It's so great to connect with all of you and practice with you today. So I want to say hello to Shruti, Atul. Sorry, I didn't say hello to you before, Atul. Hello, Tanya, Estrella, Alex, Khalid. Khalid is a beautiful poet, and I know how much all of you appreciate poetry. So definitely look at Khalid in the comments. Khalid Al-Badur, very famous poet, and look up his poetry, gorgeous poetry. Donna Parks, hello Donna. Hello Viviana. Hello Nala. Hello Tina. Hello Marquetta. Hello Tanya. Hello Susan, Susan's going to be taking this class with her 6-year-old granddaughter. There's going to be a lot of stillness in this class, so as long as you're okay with her kind of moving a lot around you, I guess that's good, which I'm sure you are. Hello Estrella, and Bobby. Hello Bobby. Hello Beck. And hello, Alessia. So nice to see everybody today. You can let us know where you're connecting from in the world. So we've got about 3 minutes before we start, and I'm going to be well rehearsed at this now. I'm going to go for my preamble for the 3rd time now. So I was saying, we're going to do a restorative yoga class for self-regulation today. This was a much requested class. Which is interesting to me. The request was to do trauma-informed yoga, which it's very hot in the industry right now. The trauma-informed yoga or mindfulness or meditation, which is appropriate. I think it's appropriate. But what I wanted to say is that all my practices, since I've been teaching here on YouTube for sure, are trauma-informed, because I had the really good fortune to study with Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy. So my yoga is very therapeutic in the fact that, I'm a yoga therapist, not like a yoga therapist anatomy based, but my training was in more the psychosomatic. And so I had a really good foundation in making sure that my classrooms were trauma-informed before trauma-informed came into the yoga classroom. So yeah, so there's that. This one is, we'll use the language more overtly, but I think that, choice has been something that's been there from the beginning in my classes. We had a lot of training in making classes safe spaces. So, let me know that I think, it's your decision. I have a real trigger around if people say this is a safe space, because I don't think anybody else can say that it's a safe space for you. You have to decide that for yourself. It's not just saying it doesn't make it so. So that's true. So they're saying thank you for fixing the sound. It makes it a lot easier for them to know what's going on. So also the other thing about today's class is that for the next 4 months in our community, we're going to be focusing on ventral vagus activation, which is part of polyvagal theory. So it used to be that we thought that our nervous system was divided into two halves, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, the sympathetic being the fight flight and the parasympathetic being the rest and digest. And then Stephen Porges came along and said, well, actually, the nervous system is actually made up of 3 branches, and the ventral vagus nerve is where we ideally want to be most of the time to feel safety and connection and resilience. And which is interesting right now because so many of us have been put into isolation and a lack of connection. And so I think that this is very timely. But he also said that when we come out of our ventral vagus nervous system, we go into sympathetic activation, which is that real activation where we feel more anxious. And or we go into dorsal vagus activation, which is where we feel shut down. Now we can go into these in a healthy way, kind of more horizontally, like sympathetic activation when we play, when we exercise. It's good to move into those in a healthy way. Also dorsal activation when we do things like yin yoga, meditation, going to sleep at night. We do need to chill out. And we do need to kind of get more activated. But we don't want to go way out of these spaces. We generally want to feel more in this space of safety, connection, where we feel like we can rely on our own inner resources and help other people, ask for help from other people, and feel that sense of resilience. So this class is going to be about resources for self-regulating, and I created it really to set up our members for the next 4 months. One of the ways to help our members set up for the next 4 months. So that is what that is about. So I'm just going to say hi to a few more people, and then we will get started because it's 9:01. So, hello, Jane. They're saying. So hello, they're saying where they're coming from in the comments. Thank you for saying where you're coming from in the comments. Susan's from Nashville. Viviana's from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Lori is watching from Dallas. Jane is here from the UK. And yeah, we've got people from all over the world. Tanya's from Serbia. Nikki's from Maryland. Tim's here in the comments. So once we start the class, I won't be doing the sound, but I'll be doing the sound. I won't be doing the comments. Cheryl's here. So if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box, and then what I'll do is I'll take them, if they have any questions about trauma-informed yoga, polyvagal theory, about self-regulation, any of those things, then you can put them in the chat box, and then we'll come back to them at the end of the class. And I think we will get started.
You saying just hello to Dubai, Germany,
Khalid's here from Dubai. Alex is here from Germany. Rebecca's here from Maryland. So thank you everybody for being here. And I'm going to get us set up to practice now. Our first pose is going to be a 10-minute hold. I might as well do that when we do the official start. So what camera are we going to be on? Okay.
How we don't do official starts. It's just one video.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, today's Restorative Yoga is a class for self-regulation. For today's class, you are going to need all of your props, pretty much. You're going to need a bolster. If you have an eye pillow, that can be nice, or a folded blanket, a meditation cushion, or some pillows, and 2 blocks. So for our first pose, which we're going to hold for 10 minutes, most of our restorative poses today, except for our final pose, Shavasana, are going to be front facing. So they're very down regulating. They're going to relax your nervous system. And you're going to have choice for all of them as well. So for the first one, you're going to take your blocks and place them if you were lying down on your mat where your shoulders are going to be. And then you're going to place your bolster at the bottom of your mat where your knees will land, and place your meditation cushion underneath your knees, underneath your bolster. And then this eye pillow is nice to place for your forehead, so you have a little space for your nose to breathe. And then you're going to place your knees at the base of the bolster. Place the blocks underneath your shoulders and your forehead on the eye pillow. And you're going to rest here for a supported locust pose. And I'm going to start the timer, so you'll be in this pose for 10 minutes. And I'm also going to sit up and just say a little bit about what's happening in this class and in this pose. So when our lives are filled with uncertainty and the unknown, the question is, how can we access self-regulation and resilience? How can we have the capacity to open to the challenges of our life and the capacity to deal skillfully with everyday disappointments and even setbacks? So Deb Dana, who has written several books on polyvagal theory, and if you're interested in this topic, you probably already know about her, but if you don't, she's definitely worth looking up. Her books, and she's really wonderful to watch on YouTube as well. Deb Dana, Debdana. She says that we can shape our nervous system in an ongoing way to become more flexible. Our nervous system can become more flexible in its ability to respond to our needs as we move through our day. So the most important thing is to be able to understand our nervous system, the way it works, bring awareness to our nervous system, and know what state our nervous system is to find resilience and regulation. So when we're feeling okay, when we've got this feeling of, I'm okay, I've got this, I can manage, And right now, in our current time, and we're filming this in May of 2020, we might not necessarily know where we're heading, but we feel safe enough to keep moving through our days. Then we're in ventral vagus activation. So, we feel okay, we feel like we've got this. We might not necessarily know what the future holds right now, but we feel safe enough to move through our days. That's ventral vagus activation. We feel like I'm okay, I can manage. Right now, even when we're bombarded with cues of danger, it's kind of difficult to anchor in that ventral vagus activation. But even so, as many of you know, we will have moments of feeling connected, deep connection internally, and also with others. But generally with ventral vagus activation, there's a sense of, I'm okay, I'm good, and I've got this. Then when we're in sympathetic mobilization, there's a flood of energy. It's a sense of feeling anxious and revved up. Like I need to move. Everything's important. I need to do something. We feel driven and we feel like we have to do it all right now. That's sympathetic activation. And then there's dorsal immobilization. And this is when we feel a lack of energy, despair, hopelessness, and when we feel like giving up. So that's often depression, but even, when you have, for those of you, it might not be the same for you, but for me, when I get a migraine, I often go into dorsal immobilization where my whole system shuts down and I just have to rest until it passes through. And it's my body's way of healing myself. So all of these things are okay. They're important coping mechanisms. And when we recognize them, we can support our body in finding resilience. So no state is right or wrong or better, best, but when we go into sympathetic mobilization, we can support ourselves in being able to discharge that revved up energy. And when we go into dorsal immobilization, we can gently coax ourselves back into ventral activation. Just gently, allow ourselves to rest and find our way back to that sense of connection and resilience and safety. So as you rest in this pose, you can just check in and see where you feel like you are today. Are you more in ventral vagus activation? Are you more in sympathetic? Or are you more in dorsal activation?
Okay, so you're going to slowly release this pose from your body.
And we're going to set ourselves up for supported child's pose. Now, if you have knee issues or ankle issues or feet issues and it hurts your knees or your ankles to do this pose, then you're going to lie on your back and draw your knees to your chest. And it can be nice to do it with your feet against the wall so that you don't have to hold your feet and knees in place the whole time. Otherwise, you can choose how you want to set up your bolster. You can just place your bolster flat on the ground, or it can be nice to have some lift here as well. And you can choose how much of a lift you want. You can always have it more lifted as well. So do what's going to work best for you in your body, what you like the best. And you're going to be in this pose for 10 minutes as well. So each person's nervous system is unique. Each person's nervous system is unique. So how do I know if I'm in ventral vagus activation? We can ask ourselves, what are the cues for me to know if I'm in ventral vagus activation? So we can know when we're in ventral vagus activation if we feel like I'm okay, I've got this, I can manage. I might not necessarily know where I'm heading right now, but I feel like I'm safe enough to keep going. Then we're in ventral vagus activation. I feel like I'm okay, I can manage. Even though right now I'm being bombarded in social media and media with cues of danger, I still have times where I feel connected internally and I feel connected with others. And there's an overall sense of, I'm okay, I've got this. And when we're in that ventral vagus activation, it's a really great, safe, and connected and resilient place to be. So we can ask ourselves, what can I do to help me savor and deepen that experience? So first of all, we want to recognize that we're in that experience. And one of the ways, this trauma-informed yoga has some great languaging around it. They call it glimmers. We recognize that when we're in ventral vagus activation, we have some glimmers. So you can ask yourself, what might be a glimmer for you? So for me, a glimmer might be when Tim or Trinity give me an unexpected hug. Then I feel really good inside, like I get the warm fuzzies, right? Or when I have a really good meal and I feel good. Or when I'm walking in nature and everything feels good and I feel relaxed and calm. Or after a yoga class, that feeling of feeling really centered and grounded and connected. And at the end of it, there's a sense of wanting to connect with others. So, what's a ventral vagus? An anchor that will allow you to feel regulated, socially engaged, and allows you to feel resilient, safe, and connected, where your thoughts shift and where you feel a reset physiologically and psychologically. So just ask yourself, what that is for you. And if you've got your head turned to one side in child's pose, then we'll just turn it to the other side now for the other half of the pose. Okay. So we're going to make our way out of this pose, and then we're going to be doing a front lying twist where we'll probably just leave our setup the same, especially if you did the child's pose. So what I'm going to suggest is we stretch out the backs of our legs before we come into this. So just a nice downward facing dog. And then we're going to be in each side of the twist for 5 minutes. So take your legs to the left side of your mat, lengthen long through your spine and lower down onto your bolster. And we'll be on this side for 5 minutes. So we talked about ventral vagus activation. When we're in sympathetic mobilization, there's a flood of energy. So this is the feeling of needing to wanting to move, to feeling driven, to feeling like everything's important, like you have to get things done. This is that feeling of anxiety, really buzzy feeling. And when you're in that, as we said, each person's nervous system is unique. So you can ask yourself, how do I know when I'm in sympathetic activation? What are some of the cues that I have from my body? And what can I do to discharge that? So for me, I know it's helpful to, I love the Qigong exercises. So for example, the root chakra fear discharge class that I taught you has a lot of really great movements in there that I often use, like the shaking out the excess energy is a really good one. For those of you that don't do that style of class, something like breath of joy is really good too, where you just let go of a lot of excess energy. Those are really good for me. Going and doing something more active like a workout can be really useful, or going for a brisk walk. So for me, those are things that work for me. So you can ask yourself, what allows you to come back into that ventral vagus zone, to feeling more grounded, more connected, more resilient. Where your thoughts are shifted and you feel more physiologically and psychologically safe and grounded.
Okay, and then we're just going to come over to the other side. So you're going to walk your knees over to the right side of your mat. Lower your left hip down. Lengthen long through your spine. Turn your head to rest your left side of your head down. And you could, of course, always take this twist lying on your back if the front facing one isn't working for whatever reason for you. Okay. For the next one, you're just going to need your bolster. I think you can put your blocks off to the side. And you're going to lie over your bolster. Your pelvis is, give me a second to set this up. I think your pelvis is, your pelvis is on the bolster. Your head is on the bolster and your legs are in frog pose. So my pubic bone is just on the bolster, slightly on and off. So I'm supporting myself and then I'm resting. I might even prop the front of this a little bit. No. We could raise the whole thing a bit. If you wanted to, you could put your blocks underneath your bolster. But we're going to do frog pose, front lying frog pose. So you can bend your knees up as much as you want, but remember it's a restorative pose, so you don't need to do too much. We're going to be in this pose for 5 minutes. I think that's plenty. So when we're in dorsal immobilization, we feel a lack of energy, despair, hopelessness, and we feel like giving up. That's the more depression state. It's when our body goes into shutdown. So we can ask ourselves, how do we know when I'm in dorsal immobilization, and what helps to bring me a gentle return? And so, as I said, everybody's nervous system is different, and it's even different on different days. So I gave you the example for myself. When I have a migraine, my body goes into dorsal immobilization. I have to go to bed and wait it out and kind of sleep it out and doze it out until it's gone. But then even in the next day, often I'm still in dorsal immobilization. And what I do to come to find that ventral vagus anchor is different on both those days. So on the first day, I'm really gentle with myself. I nap and sleep, and I might listen to guided meditations. But then on the second day, what I do to gently return to ventral vagus activation is completely different, because the dorsal shutdown's different the second day. The dorsal shutdown feels much more like depression the second day. It feels much more emotionally stagnant the second day. So the second day I like to do, there's a class in our membership community called Yoga for Depression that really gets the energy moving again, and it helps to move that stagnation along. So that's what I mean, like what helps to bring a gentle return, and how each nervous system is different, and it's different on different days. And you can really get to know that, and you can really get to be an energy alchemist in that way and know what works best for you when you tune into your energy system on different days. And really, we're just, gently coaxing the energy. It's not like a hammer with a nail. It's more like a paddle in a stream. Okay. And then for the final pose, you're going to come into is Shavasana. And I would recommend that you take your bolster and place it underneath your knees and lie face up. However, this is the only face up pose that we've done. So if that feels really open and vulnerable, then you can do a frontline Shavasana. So your choice. And I'm going to stay seated up because I have a poem and some other things for you in this pose. And you're going to be in Shavasana for 10 minutes here. So when we're in ventral vagus activation, we can continue to ask ourselves, what helps me to savor and deepen this experience? And when we do that, we deepen our ventral vagus tone. So this is an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process of shaping our nervous system to become more flexible in its ability to respond to the needs of the day. Deb Dana says, when I'm in a resilient place in my nervous system, I can reach out to somebody else in need. And that's the joy of being in ventral vagus activation or resilient states. It's not just for me, but I can also offer it to others. So Deb Dana says, when I'm in a resilient place in my nervous system, I can reach out after that to someone in need. And that is the joy of being in ventral vagus activation or resilient states. It's not just for me. It's something I can also offer to others. So glimmers that's something I was talking about in the class. They're the opposite of triggers that might send us, triggers are something that might send us into sympathetic nervous response or dorsal vagal response. They're things that light up our ventral vagus response. Something that moves you into ventral vagus activation, something that brings you meaning, connects you with your core values, things that you care about, things that light you up, that light up your inner child, things that make you feel safe, social, secure, and connected. They invite you to smile and laugh, to embrace comfort and pleasure. They give your body signals of safety. And when we feel safe and social, we have mental and physical clarity. We have the tools to engage with ourselves, what our feelings and needs are, and to speak our boundaries and to enjoy our environment. And when we take the time to acknowledge our glimmers, we build our strength. We build our strength, we tone our ventral vagus nerve, we strengthen and deepen it. And then the glimmers can turn into glows. The more we nurture this space, the more we embrace this medicine. So as I said before, glimmers for me are, so reflect on what glimmers are for you, but I'll give you some examples. For me, glimmers for me are hugs from unsolicited hugs from Tim and Trinity, eating good food, feeling connected to a sense of spaciousness and openness and ease, a lack of tension through nature or movement and meditation, connecting with people I love, feeling heard and understood. Good poetry, reading a good poem really gives me glimmers, looking at beautiful art. So speaking of good poetry, I have a quote
and then I have a poem for you. And both of them are a way of wrapping up our class today by speaking to glimmers. So this is a quote by Alex Den Higher. So you often feel tired not because you've done too much, but because you've done too little of what sparks light in you. You often feel tired not because you've done too much, but because you've done too little of what sparks light in you. And this is a poem by Patrick Lane, who's a Canadian poet, and it's called Stars. Those lights in the sky, little butterflies of the night, little dreamers. Each time my lover rises to walk in the early garden, I watch her from the window. I cannot take my eyes from her. See how she leans inside the dawn, the cherry blossoms on her shoulders, as she touches the cat who follows her everywhere, wanting only to be with her among the dark mosses. How much light there is in the high window of the night. How I wait, knowing for now she comes to me, her small feet wet with dew, white as stars in these last hours. Those light stars in the sky, little butterflies of the night, little dreamers. Each time my lover rises to walk in the early garden, I watch her from my window. I cannot take my eyes from her. See how she leans inside the dawn, the cherry blossoms on her shoulders as she touches the cat who follows her everywhere, wanting only to be with her among the dark mosses. How much light there is in the high window of night. How I wait, knowing for now she comes to me, her small feet wet with dew, white as stars in these last hours.
Okay, so gradually allow your breath to deepen. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Start to stretch out. Bend your knees and roll to your side. And pause there for a moment. And then slowly make your way up to seated. You're going to start with your left palm up, your right palm down. We're going to gather the fruits of our practice first into ourselves, and then we're going to offer them out into the world. But actually, even before we do that, we're just going to do a short integration here. So sit in a comfortable position. And take a moment to reflect back on your practice now. Just notice what stands out and what seems most important. What were the glimmers for you? And then ask yourself, what's one thing that you learned today in class? What's something new you learned? And what's one question you still have that you could type in the chat box that we could be curious about at the end of the class and have a discussion about as a community here at the end, so that we can all learn and grow together? What's something you wonder about? What's something you're curious about? We have this great resource of yogis from all around the world and connection with the teacher. What's one thing you're still curious about? So let's gather the fruits of our practice in now with our closing mantra, which is very good for ventral vagus activation. Any singing, chanting, sounding. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all. So give yourself a thumbs up and put "my glimmers are glowing" in the comments. And if you know anybody who would enjoy and appreciate this class, we'd love it if you shared that with them. And also thanks for subscribing to this channel for lots more content like this. We've got some great classes coming to you over the next few months. And we'd love to have you as a subscriber to our channel as well. So let's see what you're curious about now. Let's see what you're curious about. Okay. So Susan said she has to go back to work, but she says thank you, she needed this. So thanks for being with us, Susan. Thank you, Patrick, for being here.
Cheryl says her glimmers are glowing. Nikki says her glimmers are glowing. And it looks like it autocorrected to showing. It's good if your glimmers are showing too. I like that. Patrick wants to know if he could do this class for a cool down. Sure, of course. Great class to do for a cool down. Rebecca says her glimmers are glowing. Patty says her glimmers are glowing. It's a good term, right? The glimmers. It's a good way to really connect with when you're in that ventral vagus activation, when you know, oh, this really lights me up. Then you can, when you feel that glimmer and when you feel like you're glowing, you can know you're in that state and allow it to deepen and widen and be in it more and also connect with others in it. Johanna says, thank you so much, Melissa. I had a very relaxed Shavasana and my cat's glimmering too. Pets are a great way to connect with to have that connection with others, other living beings. They are definitely a glimmer activator. Patty says she loved visualizing her inner child for glimmers. Yeah, so great. That's a great way to do ventral vagus activation. Think, what would my inner child like to do today? And then do that. Tanya says her glimmers are glowing. Nikki says, if I keep falling asleep in the poses, is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. It's okay if you fall asleep during the poses. It just means you're tired. So sounds like you got some much needed rest. Yes, Ascent Massage says this is very good for acute, subacute injury and pain. Definitely these restorative classes are really good if you are injured and in pain. They're a great way to give your body a chance to reset and to heal. Very healing. Aw. Patty says her cat was touching her hand in Shavasana. It made me smile when you read the poem. So sweet. Our pets, we've never had pets, Tim and I, so in our married life. So I always love hearing about how your pets respond to I prefer to call them your animal companions. It sounds nicer. But they seem to be really tuned into the energy of the classes. And I love that because they really want to get in on it. And I love that. They really connect with it. Axel says his glimmers are glowing. I love that. And Nikki says, yeah, she needed the sleep. So, yeah. Great. Sounds like it was a good experience for you guys. Any questions, anything that came up when we did the reflection and I asked you if there were questions that came up or anything that you're curious about or you're wondering about this topic. So as I said, over the next 4 months, we're going to be covering this topic, this polyvagal theory, ventral vagus activation, trauma-informed yoga in our membership community. In fact, right after we finish here, Tim and I are going to be posting some classes in our membership community for this, and our daily yoga connection is going to be focusing around this theme. I've got a Dharma talk that I'm going to be releasing on this. That's another thing that we're going to be posting right after this as well. So just curious if any questions came up for you as a result of doing this class. And of course, I'm sure this class is going to be helpful too for our members. So, but I'm not seeing any questions come up about that, anything that anybody's curious about. So maybe that was completely clear today. Yeah, great. Also, just to let you know, in our community, in next week, we're going to be doing a 6-day online retreat, which is just such a great way to connect with yourself. We're going to be doing so many things. Each day is going to have a different focus. It's going to be for the fire element, which is all about the heart. We're going to open and close with a 5-element moving mudra series. The first day is going to be for intention. The last day is going to be for integration. Each day there's going to be a live class. The first day is going to be for the small intestine meridian. We're going to be, that day is really going to be on clearing the path, especially clearing the mind. The small intestine, when it gets really overwhelmed, your mind gets really foggy. So we're going to be doing a lot of clearing that day. So we'll be doing a Qigong inspired class to clear and purge to set us up for the whole retreat. Then the second day we'll be doing a class for the triple warmer meridian system, which doesn't actually have an organ associated with it. That class is for the connective tissue. Triple warmer is related to connective tissue, and it's the way that the energy moves through the system. So we'll be doing some classes with the soft foam roller and the slow-mo ball in particular, which is going to be really cool. And then the third day we'll do a class for the triple warmer system, which is the pericardium or the heart protector system, which is a really cool system that opens and closes the gates to protect the heart. And that class is going to be, because it's a portal into the heart, it's going to be a Yoga Nidra class for the live. And then the 5th day will be a class actually for the heart that will really focus on our sovereignty and radiance. And then the final day we'll go back to that 5-element moving mudra series to integrate the whole retreat. It's going to be lots of recipes and things that will just really allow you to sink into your into unconditional love is the theme for the whole retreat. So that will be really exciting. I'm looking forward to that. So everybody's just enjoying that feeling. I guess, you know, what happens when you do a class like that, like Marquetta says, she's enjoying feeling zen with a slowed down mind right now after a very active mind day. Empty mind with no questions is the glimmery bliss right now. So that is a great place to be. So glad you guys enjoyed the class. Thank you so much to everybody for being here. And we will say goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your evening and day. And we appreciate you all very much. Sending much love from beautiful British Columbia. May your joy be as deep as our ocean, and may you be as rooted as the old growth trees in our forest. May you be as strong as our mountains. Om Shanti, Namaste.